What up, y'all? The Knight of Green bringing you a Jurassic World evolution video. Here, I will do 4 things. The first thing I will do is I'm going to bring updates to the Jurassic World, or now known as the JW era, of the dinosaur cost efficiency tier list, and give my thoughts on the new animals in the game. I can't say dinosaurs because one of them's not a dinosaur. Second, I will be going over the cost efficiency tier list for the Jurassic Park or JP era animals. Third, I will show off the 4 new challenge mode skins so you can see if whether or not you want to get them. And lastly, I'm going to give a breakdown on the differences between the 2 eras version of challenge mode, as well as give my strategy on how to conquer the JP era challenge mode, which, spoiler alert, is far easier to complete. Here is the JW era dinosaur cost efficiency tier list. The only real big changes is the addition of Compsognathus and the Pteranodon. However, with the addition of the JP era challenge mode versions, I feel that this list is kind of useless, as there's no real point in doing this version of challenge mode unless you like the freedom of using more dinosaurs. More reasons on why not to play this mode later. If you want a rundown on the rest of the dinosaurs and strategies, please check my previous videos for more of the JW era version of challenge mode. So yeah, onto the new additions. This dinosaur has only 3 things going for it. It is extremely tolerant to stress, it is spammable in both small and large groups, and it can live with most things outside of other small carnivores. Unfortunately, it is held back by being extremely cost inefficient, being unlocked so late in default runs, and the fact that it has such a very low rating. It is not recommended to use at all in default challenge mode. However, you maybe want to make one or a few for unique species if you get it early in the randomized version of challenge mode. But other than that, your efforts are best spent on other dinosaurs. While on a technicality, this is one of the most cost-efficient animals in the game, in practice, it is one of the biggest waste of money. It is so absurdly hard to actually get this to run in parks. You will have to spend millions in order to get the aviary set up, and even then you can only have 6 in an enclosure per aviary. For the amount of work you have to put in and the amount of electrical power that this building takes, the overall rating is not all that impressive. You could have used that same space for other enclosures that have better pricing and higher ratings. Lastly, in the event of a storm or tornado, if this building is significantly damaged, then the animals will fly out and force you to have to remake your entire flock. I would not recommend this at all, period. Now, let's look at the JP era cost efficiency tier list for the dinosaurs. Unfortunately, you have access to only 24 dinosaurs and the Pteranodon, meaning that the selection pool is very low. On a personal note, I wish that more dinosaurs were available in this era of challenge mode, such as, I guess, the JPOG dinos. I understand that the animals that appear here are the ones that made an appearance in JP1 through JP3, but I don't understand why some things like the baryonyx are here, when I could imagine that things like the Carnotaurus or other Jurassic World dinosaurs could have been here. Maybe I'm just so used to the larger roster, and this small one is a shock to me. But off the personal note, every dinosaur has had their prices drop to 60% of their original cost. There's an inflation joke in here, but I won't make it. Also, I can say that the game pretty much forces you to use most of the animals, as the highest unique species requirement is 20. So being picky on challenge mode is not a huge factor here, since, you gotta have to use all of them anyway. So on this tier list, sand means recommended, grass means use it, if you want to for unique species, and dirt means avoid using. Essentially, avoid using Velociraptors, Proceratosaurus, Dilophosaurus, T-Rex, and Pteranodon. Use compies only if you have to, and everything else you kind of have to pretty much run. Now with this done, let's show off the rewards for the new maps for challenge mode. Now for the differences between the JW era and the JP era in challenge mode. As with always, I'm looking at this from the Jurassic difficulty level since I really only play on that. The first thing you will notice is that there is a difference in starting cash. The JW era starts with 3 million while the JP era starts with 2.4 million. You will also notice that the cost of everything, dinosaurs, buildings, etc., is drastically different between the two eras. Everything in the JP era is on a 40% discount compared to the JW era. Also, research, expedition, and fossil centers are now one building as opposed to 3. Most buildings are smaller than their JW counterparts, and there are, of course, far less technologies and dinosaurs to work with in the JP era. RIP Paleobotany. The helicopters are used strictly for transportation in the JP era, and you can only have 2 cars per ranger station. The transport rating is non-existent, and there are 3 new factions, with 2 sub-factions associated with those. There is no decreasing the faction reputation, and there's no faction sabotage, and some unlocks are faction rating dependent. The only way to increase dinosaur visibility is through the Safari Tour, and the needed dinosaur score and unique species amount is significantly smaller than that of the JW era. For example, on the JW era for the Sanctuary Island, the dinosaur score has to be 12,500 with 26 unique species, while the JP era Sanctuary has to have a score of only 9,000 with 20 unique species. Due to these changes, the JP era challenge mode has a huge focus on building a large safari tour, while the JW era focuses on building more or less a sprawling city zoo. Of the two, the JP era is far more easy to manage and complete. In fact, I would not even recommend playing the JW version of Jurassic mode if you still want to unlock the challenge mode skins. My completion times in the JP era parks are significantly faster than any of my JW parks, even though I have more experience in the JW era and I made a lot of careless mistakes in the JP era parks. Now for the Jurassic Park era challenge mode strategy. To start the game, all you need to do is build a geothermal power plant, an arrival point, and a visitor center. Use the visitor center to get the research, expedition, and fossil attachments. From here, send expedition teams out, extract DNA, and only do Grant and Malcolm contracts. Grant contracts basically involves getting genomes completed, selling materials from the fossil center, releasing dinosaurs, and doing pretty much easy things that you should always be doing. Grant gives you extraction speed and dig yield as his first 2 unlocks, which are essential technologies you will need. And on the end of his tree, he will give you Metriacanthosaurus and Baryonyx, which are superb dinosaurs to run. Malcolm contracts asks you to build storm defenses, emergency shelters, and to have no power outages or people not dying in your park for 6 to 10 minutes. Malcolm contracts has the benefit of improving the reputation of both Grant and Sattler, and are usually worth a nice amount of money. Once you have 1 or more dinosaur genomes completed, build your hatchery, a ranger station, and your safari tour. Have your safari track go around pretty much the whole island. You then build fences and a gate around your hatchery, and you will use this hatchery to pump out your dinosaurs, which you will then tranquilize with the ranger team and then transport them to the parts of the island you want them to live on. Build enclosures next to or on your tour tracks. A suggestion would be to have your starting enclosures close to the ranger station so that your ranger teams can act fast to emergencies early game. Start researching the anonymity buildings and place them in needed areas. Once you max out Grant's reputation and get all of his unlocks, start doing Sattler, Cabot, and Hammond contracts. And always have at least 1 or 2 Malcolm contracts counting down in the background for free money the entire game. Sattler usually asks for picture contracts, releasing dinosaurs with max genomes, and releasing genetically modified dinosaurs. Any of these types of genetically modified based contracts, please delete them. And if you want more info on why gene modifications are bad, you can click on the following video in the card. And only just really do the easy stuff that she offers. Fence usually asks for profit-based contracts, but he can occasionally ask for other things which will benefit Hammond's reputation. Hammond contracts are pretty much getting more people into the park and increasing your park ratings. Only really take on Finch and Hammond contracts when you are about to release new dinosaurs, because these are the events that increases ratings, profits, and the number of people coming in. Hammond's first unlock is the camera mode for your safari cars, which can make it extremely easy to do the picture contracts for the Sattler contracts. Unfortunately, most of Hammond's unlocks in his tree are not all that useful, so I don't want to worry about his reputation all that much. Sattler, on the other hand, has a dig team as her second unlock, which is absolutely essential for generating money outside of contracts and maxing out dinosaur genomes quickly. Outside of the contract management, the game follows a very simple structure. Constantly send expedition teams out to find dinosaur bones and sellable materials, max out a dinosaur genome, build an enclosure on or around the safari track, create and release dinosaurs, tranquilize them and drop them in their enclosures, and then profit. Build hotels, power stations, and amenities whenever the need arises. Research new vaccines, binoculars for the cars, extra ranger tasks, new dinosaurs, and really anything useful. You are to constantly send out your ranger teams to refill feeders, and if a disease happens, immediately send the closest car or two to deal with it, to prevent it from spreading. Repair buildings if damaged by storms with the ranger teams, and follow tornadoes with the fence tool in order to patch up breaches, and then send in the ranger teams to fix buildings when they are damaged. While I make it sound so easy, this may be in part because I am a challenge mode enthusiast, so doing all of these tasks is pretty much second nature to me. But regardless if you follow these basic guidelines, just know that this version of challenge mode is far easier to complete than the original Jurassic challenge mode. So expect to complete it in roughly 5 hours or less for this era. Some other tips with this version of challenge mode. When you're dealing with animals that actively attack ranger teams, either manually refill the feeders yourself by driving the car, or you can make sure to tell the ranger team to send a flare far away from the feeders before they refill, or if you want to do it the absolute simplest way, you can just delete and rebuild the feeder. Have at least 2 ranger teams to have a backup, just in case if battered ranger teams need a fix-up or if one ranger team gets killed in action. You should have so much money from dig yielding contracts that money really isn't an issue, so it doesn't hurt to indulge yourself a little bit in this version of challenge mode. As I said earlier, don't build Velociraptors, Proceratosauruses, Dilophosaurus, T-Rexes, or Pteranodon. These are all far more trouble than they are worth compared to any of the other animals you could build. If you don't believe me, by all means try to use these animals yourself. I did not follow my own advice, and I had Proceratosauruses in my Nublar 1993 run, and they were constantly breaking out of their fences during storms, and it was just a heartache dealing with them. Use scenery pieces to boost dinosaur ratings. They roughly add about 3% to the total score, which may not sound like a lot, but it can make a huge difference, especially towards the end. You can also feed carnivores Gallimimuses or Dryasauruses if you want to improve the ratings gradually. I would also advise not building most of the tour trucks through cages and focuses more so on building them alongside the track. I say this because dinosaur visibility is affected by what the cars are seeing, and your rating can drop if dinosaurs are causing traffic jams by not moving off of the tracks. Also, while dinosaurs aren't as violent towards the tour vehicles compared to the ranger teams, they can still run over and attack tour cars, so it's best to just not have them be able to interact with tour cars, so this can be a non-issue. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe. If you have any questions or anything that you want me to elaborate on more in this strategy, tell me in the comments. I won't be making too much JWE content, as I'll be focusing more on my weapon recreation videos. However, I will be helping some of my fellow YouTubers with their content, so you'll see me there as an assistant. Links to their channels will be in the description, but yeah, bye y'all.
With your latest success, it's clear to me that I could learn something from you. For now, though, I'm still in the taking credit phase of my career development, so that means I'll be reporting to Mr. Hammond on how well we're doing. It's all about the team, right?